Aesop's Fables. Translation by V.S. Vernon Jones. Volume 2. The Fox and the Stork. A fox invited a stork to dinner, at which the only fare provided was a large flat dish of soup. The fox lapped it up with great relish, but the stork, with her long bill, tried in vain to partake of the savory broth. Her evident distress caused the sly fox much amusement, but not long after, the stork invited him in turn, and set before him a pitcher with a long and narrow neck, into which she could get her bill with ease. Thus, while she enjoyed her dinner, the fox sat by, hungry and helpless, for it was impossible for him to reach the tempting contents of the vessel. Do not play tricks on your neighbor unless you wish the same treatment yourself. A wolf in sheep's clothing. A wolf resolved to disguise himself in order that he might prey upon a flock of sheep without fear of detection. So he clothed himself in a sheepskin and slipped among them when they were out at pasture. He completely deceived the shepherd, and when the flock was penned for the night, he was shut in with the rest. But that very night, as it happened, the shepherd, requiring a supply of mutton for the table, laid hands on the wolf in mistake for a sheep and killed him with his knife on the spot. Do not deceive, for there is always a price to pay. The Stag in the Ox Stall. A stag, chased from his lair by hounds, took refuge in a farmyard, and, entering a stable where a number of oxen were stalled, thrust himself under a pile of hay where he lay concealed, all but the tips of his horns. Presently, one of the oxen said to him, "What has induced you to come in here?" To which he replied, "Pray, let me stay for the present. When night comes, I shall easily escape under cover of the dark." In the course of the afternoon, more than one of the farmhands came in, but none noticed the presence of the stag. "We wish you well," said the oxen who spoke before, "but you are not quite out of danger yet." Sure enough, in came the master, who cried, "The beasts are starving. Here, give them more hay, and put plenty of litter under them." As he spoke, he seized an armful from the pile, and at once detected the stag. Calling his men, he had him seized and killed for the table. A safe place for some may prove unsafe for others. The Milkmaid and her Pail. A farmer's daughter has been out to milk the cows, and was returning to the dairy carrying a pail of milk upon her head. As she walked along, she fell a musing after this fashion. "The milk in this pail will provide me with cream, which I will make into butter for market. With the money, I will buy a number of eggs, and these, when hatched, will produce chickens, and I shall have quite a large poultry yard. Then I shall sell some of my fowls, and with the money which they bring in, I will buy myself a new gown, which I shall wear when I go to the fair, and all the young fellows will admire it and fall in love with me, but I shall toss my head and have nothing to say." Forgetting all about the pail, and suiting the action to the word, she tossed her head, and down went the pail, all the milk spilled, and all her fine castles in the air vanished in a moment. Don't count your chickens before they're hatched. Dolphins, Whales, and the Sprat. There was a time when dolphins quarreled with whales, and before very long they began to fight. The battle was very fierce, and had lasted some time without any sign of ending, when a Sprat thought that perhaps he could stop it, so he stepped in and tried to persuade them to make friends. But one of the dolphins said to him contemptuously, "We would rather go on fighting till we're all killed than be reconciled by a Sprat like you." Some would rather die than let an outsider resolve their conflict. The Fox and the Monkey. A fox and a monkey were on the road together and fell into a dispute as to which of them was the better born. They kept it up for some time, till they came to a place where the road passed through a cemetery full of monuments. There the monkey stopped, looking about him, and gave a great sigh. "Why do you sigh?" said the fox. The monkey pointed to the tombs and replied, "All the monuments that you see here were put up in honor of my forefathers, who in their day were eminent men." The fox was speechless for a moment, but quickly recovering, said, "Oh, don't stop at any lie, sir. You're quite safe. I'm sure none of your ancestors will rise up and expose you." Boasters brag most when there are none to speak against them. The Ass and the Lapdog. There was once a man who had an ass and a lapdog. The ass was well off, housed in the stable with plenty of oats and hay, while the little dog was made a great pet by his master, who often let him lie in his lap, and if he went out to dinner, would bring him back a tidbit or two. As the ass had a good deal of work to do, carting or grinding the corn, and carrying the burdens of the farm, ere long he grew jealous, contrasting his own life of labor with the ease and idleness of the lapdog. At last one day he broke his halter, and just as his master sat down to dinner, the ass pranced and capered about, upsetting the table and smashing the crockery with his clumsy efforts. Not content with that, he even tried to jump on his master's lap. At that, the servants, seeing the danger, belabored the silly ass with sticks and cudgels, driving him back to the stable half dead from the beating. "Alas," he cried, "all this I have brought on myself. Why could I not be satisfied with my natural and honorable position, without wishing to imitate the ridiculous antics of that useless little lapdog?" Do not seek favor by acting in a way contrary to your own nature and character. The Fir-Tree and the Bramble. A Fir-Tree was boasting to a Bramble and said, somewhat contemptuously, "You poor creature, you are of no use whatsoever. Now look at me, I am useful for all sorts of things, particularly when men build houses. They can't do without me then." But the Bramble replied, "Ah, that's all very well, but you wait till they come with axes and saws to cut you down. Then you'll wish you were a Bramble and not a fir. Better poverty without a care than wealth with endless obligations." Frog's complaint against the sun. Once upon a time, the sun was about to take himself a wife. The frogs, in terror, all raised their voices to the sky, and Jupiter, disturbed by the noise, asked what they were croaking about. They replied, "The sun is bad enough even while he is single, drying up our marshes with his heat as he does. But what will become of us if he marries and begets other sons? Keep watch upon your enemies and be wary of their plans." The Dog, the Rooster, and the Fox. A dog and a rooster became great friends and agreed to travel together. At nightfall, the rooster flew up into the branches of a tree to roost, while the dog curled up inside the hollow trunk. At break of day, the rooster woke and crowed as usual. A fox heard, and, wishing to make a breakfast of him, came and stood under the tree, begging him to come down. "I should so like," said he, "to make the acquaintance of one who has such a beautiful voice." The rooster replied, "Would you just wake the porter who sleeps at the foot of the tree? He'll open the door and let you in." The fox accordingly rapped on the trunk, when out rushed the dog and tore him to pieces. Cunning often outwits itself. The Gnat and the Bull. A gnat alighted on the horn of a bull and remained sat there for a considerable time. When it had rested sufficiently and was about to fly away, it said to the bull, "Do you mind if I go now?" The bull merely raised his eyes and remarked without interest, "It's all one to me. I didn't notice when you came, and I shan't know when you go away." We are often of more consequence to our own mind than that of our neighbor. The Bear and the Traveler. Two travelers were on the road together when a bear suddenly appeared on the scene. Before he observed them, one traveler made for a tree at the side of the road, climbed to the branches and hid. The other was not so nimble and threw himself to the ground, pretending to be dead. The bear came up and sniffed all around him, but he kept perfectly still, holding his breath, for they say that a bear will not touch a dead body. The bear took him for a corpse and went away. When the coast was clear, the traveler in the tree came down and asked the other what it was the bear had whispered when his mouth neared the man's ear. The other replied, "He told me, never again travel with a friend who deserts you at the first sign of danger." Misfortune tests the sincerity of friendship.